Hey everybody, it's Marty the Party here. We're coding again. It's a Friday. Um, it is the 5th of September. September. I can't believe I never really got my September 5th. So that's pretty cool. We're starting to here in Georgia. We used to have September used to be really hot month, but this year it is not particularly bad. So that's good. Looks like we are ready. We are ready to do a commit. So basically, I just going through and just making sure that there's nothing that just doesn't, pass the smell test. So just anything that's just obviously wrong, like console logs or something like that. We got done with unit testing or end testing yesterday. Sort of hit a dead end. I also let's see, is this thing up and running? I had mentioned, I think I mentioned yesterday that it was time to move on to the next thing, which was, for the editing. But I was wrong because there was a bug that presented itself. And basically, what happens is like, and really, it's in the delete. Delete has got some kind of bug in it because what should happen is, see if I hit update, I could see what the ID is in the URL. It's the first time that information has been exposed to me. I could have exposed it in some way, but it doesn't really make sense in any of these other views. But then it does make sense up there. But if I hit delete and then I hit add again and I hit update, what I would expect is for it to have the original ID. So it should still be ID 1, but now it's ID 12, which I think is an indicator that we have, in all likelihood, I have to kind of be careful with my words here because the word could mean a couple of different things. So we have a massive memory leak here, I think. I'm not sure. There's no way to be sure. It could just be some little idiosyncrasy inside of the numbering system. But my suspicion is I have 11 or somewhere between 0 and 11 objects that exist that are orphaned, that don't have a value. Um, Now, in the future, delete is going to get really, really complicated because, like right now, this has a geometry on it, and I don't. When I delete something, I may or may not want to delete the geometry. When I delete something, I may or may not want to delete. Like this has a material, I may or may not want to delete the camera. There's things that I might or might not want to delete under certain conditions, but in the situation where, in this specific situation, where there's a single um, visualization, when I hit delete, I expect everything to be gone. And so I don't know. I don't. So that's figuring that out is probably going to be the next thing. And what that does is it presents me with this huge opportunity, a rare, very, very, very rare opportunity. And I hear that there's like with the tools, with the um, developer tools, the browser developer tools, that there's a way to check the memory and see if what the objects are. And I don't. So that's super vague, right? Like that's a super vague statement, and I don't know what that means. So it's possible that it is possible, but it's useless. It's possible that it's not possible, that people have just been talking about it. I have definitely worked at places where really smart developer says, "Look, everybody, we could use this tool, and it'll tell us what memory and blah 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 blah," and they'll like woo booga booga booga, and they show you stuff, and they're like, "See, now you go do it. Now you go use it," and then I mess around with it. And I can't quite figure it out. But the problem is a lot of times it's just hard to figure out. I don't think it's specific enough. I don't think it will tell you, like, let's say I had two here, and then I delete one of them, delete this one. I don't think it has a really good way to just on its own tell you that, oh, by the way, all some of remnants of this guy are still in existence and they need to be deleted. Um, so I don't think it's that, but I do think that I believe, and I don't know this, I believe it will tell me if a geometry is still around or if a camera is still around or something like that. So we have this crazy opportunity to be able to say, hey, um, they should all be gone. Can we see them and try to learn how to use that tool for that, to get better? Because if I can learn to wield that tool, I'll be a much, much better developer, JavaScript browser developer. So that is probably for tomorrow. Today is probably going to be all about just getting this thing committed and checked in. Maybe if I have a little bit of time, uh, um, if I have a little bit of time, maybe it'll make sense to um, just ask ChatGPT about it, so I can have sort of the night to sort of you know sit with it, I guess is the word people like to say. I couldn't bring Red in today because my son he couldn't. It was very helpful to him for us to let his dog spend the night with us last night. So it's a bit chaotic in the house at the moment. They just had a new baby, so we definitely want to help them out as much as we can, because we know it is kind of easy to when you have a brand new baby, especially your first, it's easy to sort of find yourself at the limit where a dog barking like that can push you over the edge. Roxy, shush it up. What is your problem? Um, so, anyways, I deleted 2 logs there. I don't think I want the logs. I think that looks good. This is just adding a Cypress in define thing. This was setting the tab indexes, which was an issue that was discovered during that. This up here where I keep this, but this down here will end up being deleted. But for now, I'm going to check it in because it is useful. Um, here's, oh, okay, so this was a unit test. And I guess we needed to add um, something for it to use it um, from the routing, and then this basically checks to see if our um, aspect ratio, and boy, that is misspelled, ratio, is correct from a unit test perspective. So that's good because we did test it also on end to end. So that's cool. Layout component. And that all looks good. And I guess this is probably why we need the route in our unit test. So that makes sense. We got rid of the width and height because basically when we're looking in edit mode, we want it to be a different width and height. But one thing I was thinking about is like when we're here, right now, this makes sense. Basically, we're using 100% of all of the real estate available to look at this visualization. But we also will want to be able to see it in its actual original form too. So, and the reason is because like I do think it would be really cool to have the ability to animate the aspect ratio, because I think it like that along with like fog could be used to sort of simulate your eye sort of focusing on something, like when you first wake up or come out of some sort of daze or something like that and your eyes trying to focus on something. I think we could simulate that pretty easy, and that could lead to some pretty fun and interesting animations in the future. Let's see, that looks good. I don't see anything in there that looks wrong. const width, height, const. Okay, so this is a a unit test. So I guess that makes sense. You wouldn't want to see that anything like that in the actual code. So that was going to pop out as like a smell, but that makes sense. I remember doing these dictionaries. We moved triple, so that makes sense. Index. We still have a kind of a goofy architecture. I wasn't really in an architectural mindset when I started this thing. Calculated aspect ratio, dictionary, TypeScript. I don't really get this. Oh, this is our. Oh, oh, this is our interface that we export. Okay, that makes sense. Camera. I did just get like a really important PR through yesterday at my job, and there was a few very embarrassing like typos and misspellings and left in comments, so I kind of need to get a little bit more focused. Um, the style of work, the working style in my current job is very different than the working style in previous jobs. So I'm still sort of adapting, even though I've been there for over a year. I think I'm really starting to figure out though. I'm just figure out how to do that. I don't know why that extra. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, um, but it's gonna take it takes a while when you get a new job to figure out exactly what the best way of um, working is. It's different, you know. It's like I've worked at some places where like you kind of like were on your own and you needed to get a bunch of stuff done, and it was like, okay, get this stuff done, get it out there, but make sure it's right. So then I've worked at other places where they like expected you to kind of do like sort of a rough draft and then like make it available to the product managers and all that, and then they would be like, oh, can you move this to the left, can you change that to that, is what would it take to do this to that and do that. And that's what they thought agile was like literally day to day telling developers, changing the requirements on the developers on a day to day basis. And they're like, that's what agile means. That was weird. um, then I don't know why component is, oh, because it's a render. I mean, this is a unit test. I don't see any. Yeah, everything looks good in there. And that all looks good. This is a unit test. Got an extra line there we probably don't need. Save. And my commits are very rarely this big, but I guess it's just because we're early. We're still in the getting started phases of this. I mean, getting started for a whole year though is pretty crazy. But I mean, what else am I gonna do? I guess we probably don't need this. That was like kind of an example of what I left in the code. But I had like an if then statement and all that I wanted to keep just in case it didn't work. Um, but I forgot to delete it for the PR. Fortunately, my boss found it. That would have been embarrassing if that had gone out. But what was even more embarrassing is I was a really bad typo. Um, so it was supposed to be SP because SO because we're doing share SPO, which is SharePoint, instead of SF. And I'm pretty sure I got in the habit of doing SF because we also support something called Sitefinity. Um, and so I typoed that. Okay, so that looks good. So then we want to stage all of this stuff. Discard. Man, that would have been a disaster. Stage all changes. So hidden stage, the other way you could stage everything is say like um, git add dot. I don't know why. I think it's so weird. I feel like we should either say get stage dot and stage everything, or get and or call this added. I don't know why we change have two different words right there, but it does lead to a lot of confusion. Um, so now we want to commit and we want to have a message, and I don't know exactly how I do my messages, so I'll say get log so I can see my okay updates layout icon for update delete, implements edit routing and starts the component, implement visualization video 165, implements tabular layout video 162. I think I would rather do the video. So what video is this going to be? So this is going to be video 237 to 238, and this starts update implementation. Git commit dash m. There's other ways to do this. This is just how I like to do it. I like to do it from the command line because, like, if I probably more than anything because of having the I think it's called DOS key, where you hit the up button and you can see what your past things are. I like to have that. Commit m and then video 238 and then implements, no, starts, begins, implementation, update, implementation. And I don't know how to spell implement. I-M-P-L-I-M. So it's I-M-P-L-E-M-E-N-T. Implements implementation of update. Visualization update. And that should be good. And then let's go ahead and push this. Now, normally I don't like to do a commit of things that aren't complete. But like, I think once we start going down the path of like creating new component and then setting all that up, there's a very good chance that at some point I'm going to be like, okay, this is so over the top screwed up that I need to just nuke everything and start from scratch. But that code that I just implemented, that I just committed, I think I want that. So I wouldn't want to lose that code if I get myself in a position where I just need to nuke everything. I want to keep that code. That, and then also there was like a lot of changes, and I was very happy with those changes. So that's why I did that. Let's see, where are we on time? 8:46, 8:49. So git commit. I mean, so chat GPT. So, and one thing I did want to mention is the reason we never noticed this before is because you couldn't see the actual ID before. And I remember thinking like in this situation, like if this was 1 and I hit reload and then I added something, like it should show me that, and I guess even though we added it should be 1, right? So if I go like there and update, yeah. So that would be good to fix too, is like when you if you add something from here, it probably should just automatically take you to that. Yeah, I think that makes sense, right? Like, so if you add a new one right now, it should probably leave this one and go to the new one, but maybe not. I don't know. Not sure. maybe it should only do that if there isn't one you're looking at, or who knows. I guess we need to think through that whole thing. And I thought I had a quick and easy fix, but nope. All right, so ChatGPT. So I have been working on an Angular project, and I create a bunch of objects. Um, then and I delete perform, delete action. It seems like all of my objects are not being deleted. Classic memory leak. Is there a way to use the developer dev tools to check? Tools for hunting down memory leaks in Angular or any JavaScript since you're seeing object persist. So I don't know. Step 1, open the memory tab, F12, Control Shift I. Go to memory panel, maybe hidden. Take a heap snapshot in the state where the object exists. Click take snapshot, perform your delete. In the action, take another snapshot. Now you can compare the two. Look under objects, expand classes or object constructors. If you still see deleted objects sticking around, it means the references are being held somewhere. So I feel like this piece here is a bit vague. Like, how would you know if you see, but maybe use allocation timeline instead of snapshots. Choose allocation, instrumentation on the timeline, start recording, perform your delete, cycle up, stop recording. DevTools will show you where your memory is allocated and if it ever gets released. Step 4, watch for detached DOM nodes. Angular can leak memory if subscription or references keep DOM elements alive. So I think we're good on this piece. I know we did have a problem with this, but I remember if I search snapshot. Oh, in the snapshot, search for detached. If you see many detached DOM nodes, it means something likely an event listener or RxJS subscriptions still holding a reference. And then this is just that is interesting. Console type monitor elements 0 if it's DOM. All right, so it is 8:54 right now, so I guess it's a good idea to break for now. Tomorrow, I hope I remember. I'm pretty sure I will. That we want to do this. I've never really done this before, so I was a little bit suspicious. I know, like every time anyone's talked about this, I've seen they used to have these things called lunch and learns. I don't know if people still do that, but like someone would do, oh, I'm gonna do a lunch and learn, and then they would show like the dev tools and like whatever they were showing didn't make any sense. They were like, and now you, and then they would do this heap thing, and then they would heap snapshot, and then they would do another heap snapshot, and then they'd start pointing at stuff, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I see it, and none of them saw it. So I don't know. I guess I've always been very suspicious of that because, I got some pretty good training when I was a child. Like we went camping with, I think it was the YMCA. Once we went out into the mountains and they were like, oh, we're going to go, they called it snipe hunting. And this is in New Mexico. Apparently Texas has a very cruel game that they call snipe hunting. The snipe hunting I did was not a cruel game at all that we did in New Mexico where I grew up. So what would happen is they would say, "Oh, okay, we need to get a pillowcase," and they would already have a pillowcase, and they had like a hole cut in the bottom of it, but they never showed us the hole. And they would take us out to the mountains, and they would be like, we would go out and we were gonna go catch these snipes, or a snipe. And so we'd go out there, and they're like, okay, they always hide in this kind of bush. Everybody needs to. We're gonna run up to that bush over there, and we're all gonna shake it, and I'm gonna hold the pillowcase open, and then the snipe's going to run into the pillowcase, and we're going to catch it, and it's going to be great, and you guys are going to get to see a snipe. And so we were like, okay, and so we all ran over, we shaked it, and then the guy goes, oh my god, I got it, I got it, I got it. And he goes, I saw it run in there. And then he shows us the pillowcase, but then we see that there was a hole in the bottom. And he's like, oh, he got away, but you saw it, right? Literally got all of us, we were like 10, 11 years old, all of us to commit and be absolutely sure that we'd seen this creature run out of the bush and run into that. I mean, I can remember physically like seeing that the snipe, and then we all started describing it, and then we all came up with our own group consistent description of this snipe. Oh yeah, it was brown and it had orange eyes and this, and I could literally see this creature in my eyes. And then they go, yeah, no, there was no snipe. We cut this ahead of time. Guys, you got to realize that you can get caught up in like a group think kind of thing, and you always have to be very suspicious of everything, especially when they're like trying to get a big group thing, all that. Apparently in Texas, my friend said they took them for a snipe hunt, and they took them out to the middle of the mountains in the middle of the dark, and then just left them. They said, oh, we're doing a snipe hunt, everybody run over to the bush, and then they left them, abandoned them in the mountains, and then they spent the whole night in the dark, scared and alone. That was very different than my version of the snipe hunt. But anyways, so I always felt like when everyone was going, oh, I see it in the memory, in the heap, I could see what you're talking about, that we were basically doing that snipe hunt thing. But tomorrow we will dig in and see what's going on. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.